Hey yo, what's going on guys? It's Cynical. Welcome back to another video. Today for you guys, I want to talk about the recent Final Fantasy XVI drama, yet another one. In case you guys don't know and you've been out of the loop over the past month, 16 has not managed to catch a moment's reprieve with dramas surrounding the game, even before the game has launched. It is due to launch this June, just under 3 months now, which is very exciting. But there has been a few controversies circulating, whether it be to do with Yoshida's comments towards the lack of diversity in the game overall, or of course his comments towards the JRPG genre. There's been a few dramas and people, taking to Twitter, going up in arms with their pitchforks, as Twitter usually works. This is nothing new. But there's another one, and I wanted to talk about today's one, just because, I don't know, I don't find it to be such a big deal. There's parts of it that I can understand, but let's talk about this. So, recently Square Enix released a new sort of 20-second gameplay clip, just pretty much to showcase that Torgal, your party member dog, can basically uncover hidden things within the environment. He'll bark to indicate where maybe a hidden passage is, maybe where a chest is. He'll pretty much show you points of interest. And within this gameplay clip, it shows us, we got Clive here in this forest setting, and Torgal then finds a little, crevice that you can squeeze through to uncover a new area of the map. Now, obviously, this is the squeeze gap thing, right? And this is a loading technique that we've seen a lot over the past few years being used in a lot of AAA games in order to basically keep the game running, maybe give a moment's sort of rest to sort of have a conversation while you're squeezing through a gap. I don't really know how characters are able to do that while squeezing through a gap because, it's a gap and you're restricted. Why are you talking about grandma's applesauce whilst squeezing through a gap where the roof of this crevice could come down and break your toes? I don't know. Anyway, I digress. It's used as this loading technique to, basically load the next portion of the map. And this is something that a lot of gamers have come to absolutely despise over the past few years, just because this technique is becoming more and more prominent. Obviously, God of War uses it quite a lot. Final Fantasy VII Remake used it. The Last of Us uses it. Ghost of Tsushima uses it. From memory too, Callisto Protocol uses it as well. There's a lot of AAA games that use this technique, and I think at this point people are getting a little bit fatigued with it, especially because now with the hardware that we're using, looking at the SSD that's within the PlayStation 5, a lot of people are like, why is this a thing still? We've got the SSD, it should be able to load the map without the need of squeezing through a fucking gap. God help me. Now, for me personally, I don't really find it to be so much of a problem. It really comes down to how far and few between this technique is used, because there are a numerous amount of other ways to load in the next portion of a map, rather than just squeezing through a gap. And I'll admit, after a while, seeing it pop up in a lot of games is a little bit annoying. But it just really comes down to how long is this shuffling sequence while going through a small gap or crevice? If I'm being truthfully honest here, I think the only game where I've actually had a problem with it is Final Fantasy VII Remake. There are quite a few portions throughout that game where, for whatever reason, the length of the gap shuffling goes on for a little bit too long. But overall, I really don't mind this technique at all. I hope that we don't continue to see it in 5 years to come. I think and hope by that point, developers have maybe thought of a different and better technique, something that's maybe a little bit more immersive, unless they see it absolutely necessary and kind of makes sense from a narrative and environmental standpoint to use a squeeze gap loading technique. Looking at this clip, it takes Clive 5 seconds, a total of 5 seconds, to squeeze through the gap. It's almost basically seamless. We also don't know for sure as well if this is actually one of those loading techniques. It would totally make sense in a forest environment that there would be some kind of crevice or something you have to squeeze through. And again, this comes down to the whole thing of if it environmentally makes sense, it's not happening every hour, then quite frankly, I don't have a problem with it. People on Twitter are going up in arms about this. If there is one comment that I will agree with though, it is that why did Square Enix choose this specifically to show off, to use as marketing? Because I think at this point it's a pretty known thing that like a lot of people despise the use of this in video games. Maybe Square Enix are looking at it differently though and thinking, well, we're not actually using this that much throughout the game, and to be fair, it's not really even a loading technique. If you kind of look at the clip too, the other side of the map where Clive eventually reaches once he squeezes out of the gap, it is present there, and also the crevice, there's no corner in it to block off seeing the exit out the other side. Of course, we might just be seeing the very beginnings of the map, but like with how fast the actual squeeze gap animation lasts for, I want to say that this isn't actually a loading technique. With the PS5 SSD, the squeeze gap loading times might just be 5 seconds now, something quick like that. So at the same time too, it could be. It's not a big deal. Like, I just don't find this kind of thing to be a big deal. Like, my brothers and sisters in gaming, if you can't spend 5 seconds of your time not swinging a sword, casting some magic, or scratching that ass, then quite clearly your time is too precious to be playing video games. Why don't you go out there and climb a tree? It's just that case of like, gamers will literally complain about fucking anything these days, man. The expectations when it comes to AAA quality games are absolutely through the roof. Take me back to simpler times of the PlayStation 2, PlayStation 1 era, please. Yeah, sure, there were people over on game FAQs complaining in forums, but like nowadays, everything is just in your face, and God forbid if we have to spend 5 seconds squeezing through a rock, there's gonna be a problem! I don't know, man. I just don't see it to be an issue, quite frankly, at all. I mean, do people realize that we're looking at 35 chunky hours to finish the main game story, then anywhere from 70 to 80 hours to see absolutely everything else, yet there are people here worried about spending 5 seconds walking through a fucking rock? Oh, I'm sorry that we're taking 5 seconds away from a total 80-hour experience. Y'all are privileged. Y'all are sipping that pumpkin soup with a silver diamond encrusted spoon. Check yourself. That being said though, Final Fantasy XVI is looking fantastic. I simply can't wait. It's Square Enix's biggest release of this year. It's been a hot minute since the last main entry into the Final Fantasy series. This is looking like it's going to be a snacky little beefcake. I'm loving the new direction, going back to like high fantasy, the more mature tone, the heavy emphasis on action RPG with Devil May Cry DNA infused into it. We've literally got the DMC Battle Planner working on this game. So guys, just wanted to throw my 5 cents out onto the table. Do be sure to leave your thoughts and opinions towards the whole squeeze gap loading technique. I'd love to know what you guys think. Do you find it to be a big deal, or don't you? Do you just not care? Do you actually have 5 seconds to spare in your life to be able to squeeze through a small gap in a level? Let me know. I'd love to know. Have you guys some cynical, hopefully, and a fantastic day. Until next time, guys, I'll catch you later. Peace.